President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has dissolved the Governing Council of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, in Anambra State. Earlier today, removing its newly appointed Vice Chancellor, Professor Bernard Odo, and the Registrar, Mrs. Rosemary Walker. He also approved the removal of the Salami as the Pro-Chancellor and the Chairman of the Governing Council of the Federal University of Health Sciences of Topo in Benue State. The presidency made this announcement in a statement that was signed by the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Naruga, with the title, President Tinubu sacks Nnamdi Azikiwe University Council, VC, and Registrar. The council, led by Greg Madiwe, included 5 other members, Augustine Oyabola and General Musho Oyenajin, retired, were all the members of the council. The president, due to the crisis was rocking the university, have to dissolve the council, confirmed by the Ministry of Education and the spokesperson to the president. We had earlier had interactions and conversations surrounding that of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. We will try as much as possible to get the ASU chairman of that university subsequently to head voice to this recent development in that institution. Hello everyone, welcome to Big Talk live from the nation's capital, Abuja. My name is Erika Michael. Tonight we'll delve into the Ondo State governorship election. It looks that the candidate of the People's Democratic Party is rejecting the result of the elections and declaring that INEC is trying to he has vowed to seek justice at the tribunal. But earlier today, the Independent National Electoral Commission presented certificate of return to the state governor-elect Lucky Ayaditiwa and his deputy Adelami Olaide. The certificate was presented to them in Abuja, the headquarters of INEC, just 4 days after they were declared the winner of the poll by the Supervisory National Commissioner of Ondo State, Professor Kunle Ajayi. And let me bring you the sound bite from that certificate. A brief ceremony at the headquarters. We spoke with the national chairman of APC and the state chairman of APC in Ondo State in reaction towards the elections, and now that the APC have gotten the mandate of the people in Ondo State. Take a listen to what the national chairman said.
And for those states that are not in APC, if we take zone by zone, you see, for the south political zone, you see, that's is the zone of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and naturally, you should expect we should have homogeneity in terms of political winning. Therefore, through democratic means, we will do all what is possible in order to ensure that we have homogeneity in that southern political zone by winning the next 2 states, that is Osun State and Oyo State.
Well, we have been doing our best in terms of service delivery to the people of Ondo State. And our record give us the victory. The former governor Oluwarotimi Odunayo Akeredolu, served the people of the state diligently well.
Those were the very few reactions from the INEC headquarters earlier today after the brief ceremony which you've earlier had it on the news in respect to the climax of Ondo governorship election. The other political parties, the PDP and others, the Labour and others, are challenging the result, as saying they will go to the tribunal to seek redress, which the president and everyone has advised them to do. Tonight, I'm being joined by a stalwart of APC and investment banker, Otumba Toba Ayodele. Of course, we'll be speaking to us now that APC have gotten the mandate in Ondo State. What is next for the people of Ondo? Tonight, he joins us live here on the program Big Talk to express his concern. Thanks so much for joining us on the program. Yes, it looks that the people really had at the INEC headquarters were very happy that Governor Lucky has received certificate of return confirming his 4 years of government. But there are many questions the people are asking. what is on ground for the people of Ondo. But before we go to that, how do you feel about that mixed feelings for the governor, and then the PDP are saying we're going to call? We were looking at, if the governor had won 18 local government, it was possible to project that the whole of the state had supported the governor, but for them to seek for redress in the court, does it mean that there is a room that they feel things were not right during the election?
All right, thank you so much for having me. My name is Dr. Olontobayedele once again. So number one, let me start by saying congratulations to the current governor and also the governor-elect of Ondo State, His Excellency Honorable Lucky Orimisola and his deputy, the sitting deputy, and also the deputy-elect, that's Dr. Olaide Adelabi MNI, for this victory. That's one. So fine, it's actually a mixed feeling, right? I mean, we have two factions. One faction which is the APC rejoicing, and the other faction that is both PDP and several other parties and all that. So if you ask me, really, let me talk for the camp of the of the losers, in this gubernatorial, election. It's just normal for people to not to accept defeat in that way, and it's also normal again to also go to the court to go and seek redress, and all that. So it's actually expected. But I salute that, versus resorting to violence, if you look at all the local government and all that, so it was actually a very peaceful, election, across board, and we are very happy that there was no bloodshed, during this election. It's one of the fairest and most peaceful elections, that the state has ever held. So that is okay. And then for the governor, I mean, for the APC camp, and I can say that number one, from day one after this election, I mean, they are actually they are beginning to roll up their sleeve and to see what they can do, how they can go back from politics into governance, and we've seen a lot of metrics and indices, around going to governance, on ground. So that's actually very commendable.
So you feel the PDP candidate did not have the capacity to lead the state?
Well, I think let me speak.
The governor feel he has more experience in public service than the governor.
Now, if you look at it, right now, we have the governor that is coming from a private sector that is bringing a corporate experience, into governance. That is one, and people, the two of them, both the PDP, candidates, and also the governor, they've been the deputies. They be the deputies, and people can actually access the character, the competence, of this, and the people's choice by voting APC and by voting Lucky Adelabi precisely has actually demonstrated the where people actually belong and who they feel is the better candidate to actually serve them, and that's why they are going all out for APC, all out for His Excellency Lucky Orimisola. So people have actually decided. So the people's decision is reflected in the kind of vote, and that's why across all the 18 local governments, APC swept all the votes. So I mean, this is a well contested, vote, and it was a level playing ground, by INEC. So people have decided by virtue of the vote. So it therefore means that people have been able to actually assess these two candidates, and they are saying that they prefer Lucky Orimisola to several other candidates, of different parties.
I mean, because there are several observations that have also gathered the election that the election was about exchange of money, buying of votes. Was that the case during the elections?
Well, I'm not aware of anything, like that. But again, I mean, people, particularly those who are losers, they will always have.
You are saying there were free and fair elections on ground. But people really voting their own mind, not really for money or for the love of rice or what to eat.
Yeah, yes, for me, I mean, people actually voted, for their rights. They voted their conscience. Let me just set a very good example. In my own unit, which is in about Ward 2, unit 5, the total vote in that unit was about 313, out of which APC actually, secured 249, votes. That's about 79% of the total vote in that unit, while PDP actually secured 55, vote. That's about 70%, 70.6%, of the whole vote. So, and that is what we saw reflecting in different local government, even the local government, even local government where the candidate of PDP even came from. We saw APC even winning landslidely, in that place. So, the vote of people reflected, people's choice, and who they feel can actually serve them better. I cannot question that.
Even some Nigerians that are not from Ondo are saying, under the condition that we have in this country, that people might not really vote your party into office. That is the perception many Nigerians are having. See, you're saying that your party has brought untold hardship to the country and all of that. I know you've been reading some of those concerns.
Yeah, well, we've gone beyond, party. We're talking about number one, candidacy in the first place. Now, if you look at Lucky Odumosu is somebody that is full of experience from the corporate sector, is somebody that has, that has the roadmap of what he wants to do from day one. Let me tell you, today is actually, he received a certificate of return from INEC. I'm telling you that come Friday, which is November 22nd, Lucky Odumosu is organizing what we call the Global Entrepreneurship, Festival, where we're going to be having a gathering of about at least 500 investors, both local and also foreign.
So you are saying that it's going towards the direction of entrepreneurship, fighting unemployment that we're having in the country, because I'm going to come back to what the government intends to do. In a bid to getting a mandate, there are a lot of people having issues that you must put the house together, you must bring everyone together, a government of inclusivity. Is that the picture of Governor Lucky?
Exactly. That has been his government, and that's why people are having this kind of trust, in him, which is why people actually voted massively for him. Because number one, they've tested him, the last 10 months that he has taken over, and they've seen what he can do, what he has done, and what also and the roadmap of what he wants to, what he will do when is elected, into the office. So this is what people have seen, and this is the confidence that people actually have in him. So which is why they are actually trying to vote him. Mind you, over time, Ondo State is one of the states in Nigeria that is full of different deposit of mineral resources. But all of this is just there untapped, and that is the angle that His Excellency Lucky Odumosu is coming from, to be able to actually to be able to actually increase what we call the gross capital formation in the state by industrializing the state. And people are happy about this one because it's going to provide employment and job opportunity for people, and it's only when you work that they're going to eat. So this is what people have seen, and the vote of people actually stayed with His Excellency Lucky Odumosu. We are happy about that.
Yes, particularly if it's really for the will of the people, because those are really having a concern. What is really in for the people of Ondo? Yes, is enough to win an election. Yes, it's enough to celebrate the victory. Yes, it's enough to get the mandate. But one of the most important thing is about not just the fantastic manifesto, the blueprints of what you intend to do. Is always about implementation. Judging the governor for the few months in office, that those that are having a concern of his capacity to walk the talk, not really about talking again, not really about the fantastic idea. You've mentioned that the governor is coming from a corporate, a society, now to the public service.
Now, thank you so much for the question. If you look at, Lucky Odumosu, and it's not somebody that talks so much. It's a very steady person, but it's very calculative. Right, so it's not one of those people, one of those leaders that will just talk and talk, no action. But as far as Lucky is concerned, is somebody who takes very decisive and calculative step, in everything that he does. So from that side, from that side, you will see that he already, by the time is sworn in officially right now, even before the swearing in, so you see that you're going to see a lot of changes, in his cabinet, in those who can actually work with him to be able to deliver on his mandate and all that. So I believe that that is what he's going to do, and people will start seeing the dividend of this democracy, particularly in Ondo State.
Because I'm really happy you're a development banker. You know what it means to invest in some infrastructure development. I'm going to come to that because it looks like when you look at the projection of what the federal government are doing, they have increased allocation to state. There are those that are having a concern. What are the state governors really doing? Are you brought about that concern? And there is a need to pay attention to some infrastructural development, production, having to engage in a robust economy. Looking at the inflation today in the country, what is the role of the state?
Okay, so thank you. Number one, if you look at the states right now in Nigeria, all those states have been adjudged as one of the most secure states, most secure states.
So you're saying all your unemployment rate is at the low?
No, I'm taking it first of all from the place of insecurity. A lot of states right now are battling with different insecurities here and there, banditry, insurgencies here and there, kidnapping. But if you look at it, all those states have been relatively very peaceful, and security architecture is a point. That alone is a good incentive for any investors coming into the state, first of all. And secondly, if we look at the agenda of His Excellency, right now, all those states has been known to be the agricultural base, not only in Southwest but also in Nigeria. Because today right now, all those states is actually the largest exporter of cocoa, in Nigeria. It's actually accounted for about 40% of all total export of cocoa in Nigeria. So looking at agriculture, looking at mining, looking at transportation and logistics, looking at blue economy, looking at tourism, looking at ICT. So these are different areas that His Excellency, is willing to actually move up the economy. So today, as at 2017, the IGR of Ondo State was about 10.9 billion. Why in 2018 it was about 24.6 billion, and then in 2019, right, it's about 36 billion. Why in 2020, because of the COVID, it came down to about 24 billion. But in 2021, it peaked again to about 30.8. While in 2022, it went to about 30 billion. So the plan by His Excellency is how to be able to industrialize the economy so that we can 10x this IGR in the next 2 to 4 years in office, and this is achievable. So he already has his own roadmap for what he's going to do from day one, and that is why immediately after the collection of certificate of return, is hosting what we call the Global Entrepreneurship Festival.
That begin to put food on the table at the end of the day.
Yeah. So what I mean right now that he has already been inviting the investors into the state, is opening up the state to investment, is opening up the state to employment opportunity to our youth, right? So this is the only way you can actually increase you can actually increase the purchasing power of people in the states.
It looks like we are still in a very all-time high in looking at level of inflation, that those are having issues about purchasing power of many Nigerians. Let me take you to the national concern, because Ondo is still in Nigeria. Ondo is not just an isolated state. You are operating within the territory. And there are those that are having a concern about where this government, your party, is taking Nigerians to. Do you feel that there's a projection that these reforms that has been taken by government will begin to address, the many challenges, the hardship faced by many Nigerians, and the continuous outcry that things are not working well?
Yes, thank you so much. I mean, at the national level, cross-board, we actually allude to the fact that the purchasing power is being eroded by way of inflation, and all that. And that is because Nigeria is not a producing country. We are not producing. We're going to import. So, but if you look at Ondo State as a subset of the national economy, and so that's why His Excellency, he already has his own roadmap for the state that he controls, where he has control over, right? So just to be able to alleviate that kind of poverty, just to be able to also increase the purchasing power of people and to increase the standard of living, and that is why we are trying to actually open up the economy to investors. That's why we are trying to actually create that kind of conducive environment where the investors will be so much attracted to be. And that's the only way by which it's only when we produce that we can actually address this issue of this issue of quality of life, standard of living, purchasing power, and all that. So that is what His Excellency is trying to do from day one, and that's why we are hosting this global entrepreneurship festival on the 22nd.
All right. Well, let's get to go on a very quick break, everyone. A lot of concern. I'm happy it is a development banker that those are having a concern on majorly the economic management of the increase of state allocation has continued to be a concern because federal government are saying and projecting that part of the savings from subsidy is for the state. What are the states really doing with all of these increase in allocation? Now that we Ondo State have a renewed, commander and leader in the state, that those are really paying attention to not just what he is talking, but what he will be able to do for Ondo. And tonight, we'll not just be talking about just Ondo, we'll also be my light searchlight to all the state. What should state begin to do? The economic hardship, the concern about how we can begin to build sustainable infrastructure, about production. Are state producing? Are they enhancing infrastructure for some of these production agenda and the outcry? We'll look at that after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks everyone for still staying with us. There are a lot of development politically in the country, just as INEC has issued out a certificate of return to the governor-elect of Ondo State, Lucky Ayedatiwa, and his deputy governor-elect. We were still looking at the projection of state governance. It looks at the subnational has to also put hands in a bid to addressing the many of the challenges ravaging the country. We'll talk about insecurity, that those that are projecting state policing, talk about economy, that those that are asking that the state must begin to produce and not just leaving it to the hands of few individuals for production, so as to have, exports in the country. As you have Otumba on the program to extra all of these, is a stalwart of the APC and the Development Bank. Thanks so much, Otumba, for still being with us on the program. Let's look at, increase of allocation to states. What has been your concern? Has the increase, is it because of the inflation that we have this increase? Or yes, government is saying savings from subsidy, that's the reason, or what we can to be able to also put some of these allocation to state. That those are also arguing, why should you increase allocation to state? Why are you putting money in the hands of governors? How can we begin to address these issues?
All right, so thank you. I think it's actually been a concern to everybody, and that is need for people to start asking questions, right? Because the last 1 year, the allocation has actually increased, significantly to several states, and I think it is time that we need to start, holding our leaders, we need to actually actually hold them responsible for everything they are doing, so that it is very clear, what kind of projects, what kind of development projects, do you have, so that maybe on a periodic basis, say on a quarterly basis, there's need for stewardship feedback or report, where there's going to be engagement between the leaders and also the citizens itself, so that they know what governments is even doing with the money. So, but it's just sad that we've not really seen the commensurate development in the economy versus the kind of increase in the allocation that are going to different states, in the last 1 year. But really, I mean, it's something that we think we need to start, addressing, right now. I mean, I'm not very close to the government, so I wouldn't know what they are really doing, in all of these things. But again, it's a question that continues to beg for answer.
Is your state one of the oil-producing states?
What is it?
Is Ondo State one of the oil-producing states?
Yeah, Ondo State is part of NDDC. It's
part of the NDDC.
Yes.
That those that have said, with all of these derivations and the survey, the oil-producing state ought to do better than any other state.
Yes, you are right. You are right. But again, I mean, governance is not very cheap.
So it's not rocket science.
It's not a rocket science. But it's not very cheap again. So also administer. But I believe that there's a lot of
governance. What makes governance difficult? Because there are those that are feeling, if you have a clear economy, clear purpose and intentions of government, these are the things that they ought to probably be paying attention to.
Yes, you are right. That's why I said the other time that there is need for us to start, calling people, to order in terms of, holding them responsible for everything, But I feel that there is need for us to actually have a sense of what the policy direction of the government is, so that even if we want to actually benchmark the performance of government, on what basis you're actually doing that, So it's right now, both this, particularly the citizens, they need to actually start paying a close watch to the activities of the government, particularly given the kind of allocation that is going to them, at this point.
All right. When you said about projecting the result of government, and those that are very concerned, what are the short-term plans of government? Because when you look at, for instance, the federal government have taken some policies, that is a reforms that is really hitting hard on Nigerians. But over time, the president are assuring that Nigerians things will get better. I'm working on it. We are on the game. I asked for the job, and that those that are having a concern, for how long should we continue to exercise patience?
Okay, so we know that right now there is a very deep, level of poverty, across board, and we now have different governments now coming up with different intervention and palliative measures, know that. I mean, I think largely for for several governments. So what they'll be doing is to come up with different short-term interventions, short-term, palliative measures. Why try to also, fix what should be the long-term, and I think that will be the trend, right? But in any case, what is going to save us is, and what will make us to defend the naira is for us to actually transit from a consuming state, a consuming country, to a producing country, right? And that of course has been the core of the roadmap of His Excellency Odoblok Yorunsoye that we are, and now that is now the people's choice, the elected governor of Ondo State. And we believe that sooner or later we are going to be seeing all of this, roadmap, being executed, to the best interest of the state.
Yeah, because when you look at the backloads of that in Ondo State, that those that are having a concern, how would the governor begin to, service all of these, also managing, production and enhancing development in the state? Do you have an idea how the governor wants to tackle that?
Okay, so I've been able to speak to his tactical strategy, right? But again, if you look at debt, debt in itself is not totally bad, but debt only makes sense if you are just getting money for capital projects, right? Capital project that can eventually, yield some return,
So
but
judging by all what your state have borrowed for the past years, and okay, let's spare the governor that is just coming in. We have not really seen how much he has borrowed, but it's a projection that each government has borrowed. Have they really allocated some of these they are borrowing to the capital project that we are looking at?
well, I mean, we see that, for instance, now the clothes you bought, like 20,000 last year, it's not that 20,000 right now. So what therefore means right now is that for you to even want to take any form of project right now, the price of even of executing that project has gone up like times 5, times 10. A very good example. Look at the pump price, of petrol. How much it was last year versus what it is right now. So it therefore means that for you to execute any project right now, you will need more money. But unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves in the country, right? So we've seen a lot of projects be commissioned, here and there, particularly in other states, and the cost of even, doing this has gone up because of the FX. Because sadly, a lot of the things we use right now for projects, they're imported and they're affected by FX, right? So which is why we need to transit from this current, consuming level that we have to a producing level, and that is the direction that is going to save all of us of this mess that we find ourselves today.
How would you begin to look at the internal generated revenue, the IGR of the state? Because those that are having a concern, how is this? How would you be able to manage this when people are having crisis in businesses, entrepreneurs are having it very difficult, power sustenance, inflations as well? How would it go? No, because it looks that if we are having your state in crisis of debt, that those that are having a concern that allocation is no more enough to service some of some of the programs on the intentions of government. So government have to resort to looking at internal generated revenue.
Okay, so
without increasing, all hardship on the life of the people of Ondo State.
Okay, so thank you for your question. That's why I said the other time that this global entrepreneurship festival that's holding on the 22nd of November, which is Friday, is actually geared towards industrializing the state. So most of all these problems that we're having, they're actually intertwined. So what that means right now is that the more industries you have, the more employment you create for your people, for citizens, the more revenue you also generate, because from tax and several means. So in that way, you can also increase your IGR. As at by the statistics, as at 2022. The IGR of the state about 30 billion. So right now, and that's with the current level of industry that we have. So by the time we open up the economy, where we're going to be having about 500 investors coming into the into the economy, into the state. So but the more industries we have, the more we can also increase this IGR. 10x, 15x. Within the next 2 to 4 years, and this has been the concern, and this has been, the interest, of His Excellency in the state.
All right, let me, because I'm also taking you projecting to the national concern. The president wants to borrow over $2.2 billion recently. Would you also share in that same thought that we still need borrowing in the country, looking at a debt crisis already, ravaging the nation?
Okay, like I said the other time, that borrowing itself is not actually the problem, but what are you borrowing for, right? So, and then that's number two. Also, how are you able to also, block most of the leakages, around this borrowing, such that when you bring in this $2.2 billion into the system, and this money will be spent judiciously for the purpose for which you have got to apply for the money in the very first instance, without any form of leakage. So that is the first thing to do, to be able to actually block all the leakages, like make all this money, to drop. Then, and for the money to be invested into, in a capital project. So, for economic development and infrastructure development, I mean, it makes sense, for you to actually borrow to do all of those things. But mind you, it has to be on capital, expenditure.
So it looks like for the past, we've been borrowing to not really invest on some of these capital projects.
So our problem in the past really has likely been, you know, the leakages, you know, the corruption and all that. And you see that even recently, we've seen at the national level, we've seen a lot of ministers being changed, new one being brought on board and all that. So meaning that the government is also trying to, you know, to recalibrate, you know, what the system, you know, will be for them and all that. But again, it therefore means that, okay, it's not a business as usual. So they are also trying as much as possible to see how they can also block most of all these leakages, you know, reduce the corruption and all that. But it's going to be a battle that's going to be a continuous, you know, exercise. Fighting leakages, fighting corruption is going to be a continuous exercise.
Does it look that the body language of government is that of the ones that are also telling Nigerians, exercise patience, you know, bear with us for this main time, things are gonna work better? Because there are those that are saying, if the president had brought, you know, jets, recent jet for himself, you know, increasing allocation to some of the senators, the National Assembly, and even having more ministers in his cabinet, the cost of governance is still much and all of this concern. How do we also begin to explain this to Nigeria? Because it's another thing that people need to understand where government is going to. It's another thing for government to also picture to Nigerians where they are taking Nigerians to, and also reflecting that upon themselves. Are government really showing that example?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I mean, if you look at it, right, for instance, if you're earning 1 million 2 years back, and right now your salary is now about 3 million, you are in absolute term, you are even worse off, right?
The same.
Yeah, you are actually worse off. So that's what it means. Fine, allocation has gone up to most of the senators and House of Rep members and all that. But if you look at it in real time, I mean, it may not really make so much of difference, in real time. In return, if you actually try to index it into dollar, and all that. But I'm not trying to make a case, for that, right? But I'm just saying that the government is actually working, assiduously to see how they can actually fix the country. But again, the level of rot and the how deep how deep the mess has been is something that's not going to change, overnight, within a space of 2 years, right? So I would just appeal, we are all feeling it, we are all in the system together, we are all feeling it. But again, we'll be exercising patience, before now, and I would just appeal, to everyone to going to also, to collaborate with the government, to be able to actually get Nigeria out of the current mood that we find ourselves.
So you really have trust on this president to deliver on all of that he had promised?
Yes, I do. I mean, if you look at the roadmap, we have fantastic roadmap, but my concern really is to what extent can we block the leakages, and this is where we have this is where my issues are. Okay, so blocking the leakages, having a very strong institution that will fight against corruption and all that. So I think that's part of what government needs to focus on. Vis-a-vis the need to also focus on security in the country, such that Nigeria can be an attractive investment destination for foreign investors to come in. Until we do that, we are only playing.
All right, very lastly, we understand elections has come and it has gone, that those that are really having a concern about now that the elections is over, the generality of those campaigns, attacks, in a bid will be calm. The mood of the state is probably calm. That those that have a concern, that within your party, it looks that some of those aspirants that wanted to contest with the governor were not really in support of the governor. How would the governor begin to manage internal crisis of your party? Okay,
so I think everyone cannot be the same, and what makes you a leader is how you're able to actually relate with everyone, and I think that has been a defining factor for His Excellency Honorable Lucky Orimozan, right? So there's no one size fits all, for everyone. So it's just for you to be able to know the people you are dealing with in your party, and to be able to know how to actually address the concerns of different people. So really, people have different aspirations and interests, but you as a leader, is for you to be able to see how all of this actually align, and how you are able to reach a middle point, in all of this. So we will always have people that will not be at the same level with you in terms of aspiration, in terms of interest, but what makes you a leader is how you are able to actually address all of these things individually. So I think over time he has been able to actually do a good job of managing that, and that's why we saw the kind of support that everybody actually gave to him within the party, and that's why for the first time in history, the state was able to actually win all the local governments, and that is where they have been mentioned in the Guinness Book of Record.
18 local government over 0.
Over 0. That's
I was hearing that from the INEC house.
Yes.
So it means that it's an unprecedented winning in Ondo State.
It's a landslide. It's an unprecedented winning, in Ondo State. That's why I said for the first time in history.
And you know that if you do not deliver, people will also not really have that support again.
Exactly. So right now, people have actually tested over the last 10 months, and they've seen the capacity and what he can do, and that's why they are now trusting him to pilot the state for the next 4 years. Okay. So I believe that it's not going to disappoint people.
That's where we wrap it up towards Ondo. It looks at all of the exercise, the months of intense campaigns and struggle has been put to rest, just as INEC 4 days after the election has issued certificate of return to the governor, that those that are still having, projecting what Ondo will be in the next 4 years. The governor have reassured and has promised that things will take shape economically and otherwise, and that those that are still having that. This is what we need of our state. Governors must begin to walk the talk. They must begin to tackle, many of the challenges ravaging the country and addressing them for the brighter sustainability of our economy. Otumba Olotoba Oyodele, he's an APC stalwart and an investment banker who was live here on the program to discuss this issue. Thanks so much for being part of our show tonight on Big Talk. We do hope to have you on issues of banking and investment again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
All right, everyone. We of course we were trying to connect with the Pro-Chancellor of Nnamdi Azikiwe University in the recent move by the federal government and President Tinubu to dissolve the council. It looks at the crisis already in the university, and even the VC that was appointed, government is saying is illegal. Maybe tomorrow on the program we'll get to speak with the Pro-Chancellor of that university to know what may be the intentions from government and now how the university is receiving this news. The recent Vice-Chancellor that was appointed, government is saying that it was illegal, the process was wrong, and that is the reason why government have dissolved the board that appointed and approved the appointment of the Vice-Chancellor Bernard of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. He has not been able to connect with us tonight on the show. We do hope to have him tomorrow on the program. For now, let's wrap it up there on Big Talk. See you again tomorrow for another robust engagement and discussions on the state of the affairs of the nation. My name is Idikan Michael. It was a pleasure to have you tonight on the program. See you again tomorrow.